Lesson 30, Common Denominators, adding and subtracting fractions with different denominators. This is key when we're working with fractions and adding and subtracting. So we'll put a star there to remind us this is very important. So before you add or subtract fractions, they must have the same denominator. And we call that a common denominator. Usually, the least common multiple is what we use for the common denominator. Usually, the LCM, or least common multiple, is the common denominator. So when we write fractions with the common denominator, it helps us to be able to compare them. So if I wanted to compare 1/3 and 1/2. The least common multiple of 3 and 2. So if you count by threes, 3, 6, 9, 12. 6 would be the one that 2 could go into. So we could rewrite 1/3 as 2/6 and 1/2 as 3/6. Now that they have a common denominator, you can compare and see that the 3/6 is greater than 2/6. So writing fractions with a common denominator helps us compare them. When we need to add or subtract, we need to have a common denominator first. So usually we will rewrite the fractions so that they have a common denominator before we add or subtract. So if we wanted to add 1/2 and 3/5, we need to get a common denominator. So if we count by fives, 5, 10, 15, 20, 2 goes into 10, so we can use 10. 5 times 2 is 10, so we have to do 3 times 2 to get the new numerator. So this would be 6/10. And then 2 times 5 is 10, and 1 times 5 would be 5 for a new numerator. We'll add 5/10 and 6/10 to get 11/10, which is the same as 1 and 1/10. So we're going to add 3 1/2 plus 1 and 1/6. So we need to get a common denominator. We'll keep the whole number the same. We count by sixes till we get a number that's divisible by 2. So 6, 12, well 6 is divisible by 2, so we'll put a 6 there. 6 times 1 is 6, 1 times 1 is 1, so 1/6 is just 1/6. 2 times 3 is 6, 1 times 3 is 3. So we have 3 and 3 6 plus 1 and 1 6 is 4, and 4 6, and then we can reduce to 4 and 2/3. Now if we are subtracting, here's an example. We have 5/6 minus 3/4. We could set that up where one is on top of the other, so we do vertical subtraction. If we count by sixes, 6, 12, since 4 goes into 12, we can write that as something over 12, and the 6 can go into 12. So 4 times 3 is 12, 3 times 3 is 9, so this would be 9/12. And 6 times 2 is 12, 5 times 2 is 10, and we're subtracting. 10/12 minus 9/12 is 1/12. So 5/6 minus 3/4 is the same thing as 1/12. Okay, that's the end of the lesson.